The tricky piece for the administration, obviously, has been to have a retaliation militarily, but at the same time, not to light the fuse among Islamic radicals around the world, and more important in many ways, not to light the fuse among those people of that faith who may be trying to decide which way they want to go during the course of all of this. And as General Barry McCaffrey has been saying, this is the beginning of what promises to be a very long campaign, because Al-Qaeda is not the only Islamic radical terrorist group in the world, obviously, although most organizations and most countries now seem to have been persuaded that Osama bin Laden was in fact responsible for all of this. The Pakistanis were saying that they had seen enough evidence to indict him. Even in the last 12 hours or so, the Taliban ambassador to Pakistan was saying, we see the need to put him on trial, Osama bin Laden. We'd like to do that in Afghanistan, but we'd like to see the evidence. That was widely believed to be a stalling tactic on the part of the Taliban. President Bush has said from the very beginning that there will be no negotiation, and he answered them tonight. Let's go to NBC's Ron Allen now in Islamabad. Ron?
Tom, yes, that was a very interesting statement today from the Taliban embassy. They have made a flurry of statements during the past several weeks, each time being a bit more evasive about Osama bin Laden. On one occasion, they said, for example, that they couldn't find him. Today, they said that, yes, they made an offer to hold a trial in Afghanistan if, in fact, the United States would formally request that and provide evidence. And as you correctly point out, the United States has never taken many of these statements very seriously. But again, the Taliban has been trying consistently to negotiate in an odd way about trying in some way to get out of this as their backs have been pushed closer and closer to the wall. A couple other things the Taliban have done which are perhaps worth noting. Today, they released a British journalist who had been held, who was arrested about a week or so ago, a journalist who had snuck into the country to try and do her job. They released her as a humanitarian gesture, perhaps to try and take some of the heat off. There's also a lot of concern here in Pakistan about 8 foreign aid workers who have been in detention since August 3rd. There are 2 Americans in that group, Heather Mercer and Dana Curry. Their parents have been here in Islamabad since late August, trying to, again, persuade the Taliban to release them on humanitarian grounds. We believe that those 8 foreigners are perhaps the only Westerners who have been in Kabul during the past few weeks, since just about all the foreign diplomats and international aid community left that country. So there's a lot of concern about their fate now that the attack has started in the capital. Also, a lot of concern in this country about the refugee crisis that Dana and others were mentioning. In recent weeks, the international aid community has been frantic, basically at war themselves, trying to get supplies into this country, to the border, and across the border into Afghanistan. There was a period from September 11th for about 3 weeks where there were essentially no new food supplies going into Afghanistan. Some of the aid agencies were saying that there were people who were at risk of dying, risk of starvation, and certainly enduring severe malnutrition because the food stocks have been down to just days. In recent weeks, they have been trying to get food in, but there are huge logistical problems trying to do that. They've also been trying to set up camps, about 100 camps on this side of the border, should the Pakistani government open the border to allow refugees to come here. One huge logistical problem they face in Pakistan, there's no water in those areas. They will have to truck water in because there are no groundwater supplies. So this is the fallout that Pakistan fears. This is what the government here has been bracing itself for following any attack, because, as others have pointed out, there could be 1.5 million people now streaming to the border trying to get out. There have been thousands of people on the move, many positioning themselves near the border, wondering if Pakistan would open the border to allow them into this country. Pakistan already has some 3 million refugees from Afghanistan who have been filtering across here during the past 20 years of civil war and during the past 3 or 4 years of a severe drought. So that's what this country is now concerned about, the refugee crisis and, of course, dissent. It was perhaps important that President Bush said that there was going to be humanitarian relief going to the Afghan people. In recent weeks, they have lifted sanctions against Pakistan. They have said that they were going to restructure this country's debt, and they were also going to send a lot of economic assistance to Pakistan, trying to do what it could to quell any dissent that might be developing in this country, because, again, there is a minority, but a significant minority of people in this country who support the Taliban. Remember, the Taliban movement was born in this country. The Pakistan government is going to be watching it very closely to make sure that dissent remains under control in the coming days. Tom?
All right, thank you very much. NBC's Ron Allen reporting to us from Islamabad tonight.